Why God punished this man for trying to defend God. Why God punished Uzzah for trying to protect the Ark God. Throughout the history of humanity, many have taken it upon themselves to fight on behalf of God, and in the process, engaged in the torture and massacre of tens, hundreds, thousands, and even millions of people. I provide you with some examples in a minute. But first, the question must be asked: do these people really fight for God? How can anyone claim to defend an almighty God, the creator of the entire universe? What is the danger of taking God's fight upon oneself? These questions can be answered with the story of a man named Uzzah, who tried to protect the Ark of the Covenant of God. The story can be found in the Old Testament, specifically in the book of 2 Samuel 6:1-7 and 1 Chronicles 13:7-14. The Ark of the Covenant was a sacred container that held the stone tablets on which the 10 Commandments were inscribed. It was considered the symbol of God's presence among the Israelites. The story begins with the Israelites at war with the Philistines. In one battle, the Israelites decided to bring the Ark of the Covenant from the tabernacle into the camp, believing that it would bring them victory. However, they did this without seeking God's guidance. Despite the presence of the Ark, the Israelites were defeated, and the Philistines captured the Ark. They took it to the city of Ashdod and placed it in the temple of their god, Dagon. The next morning, the Philistines found the statue of their god, Dagon, had fallen over before the Ark. They set it back up, but the same thing happened the following day, with Dagon's head and hands broken off. Soon after, the Philistines began to experience various plagues and misfortunes, including a widespread outbreak of tumors or boils. When they finally realized that the calamities they experienced were due to the presence of the Ark, they decided to return it to the Israelites. After receiving the Ark, King David brought the Ark of the Covenant back to Jerusalem, transported on a cart. At one point, the oxen pulling the cart stumbled, and Uzzah, one of the men accompanying the Ark, reached out and touched it to steady it. However, when Uzzah touched the Ark, he was struck dead by God. While this incident is often cited as an example of the holiness and reverence associated with the Ark, but it raises the important question of why God would strike down someone trying to defend his principles. Even though Uzzah's act of touching the Ark was well-intentioned, it was still a transgression against God's commandments. If Uzzah could be punished for such a well and noble intention, why do people think they can fight on behalf of God and defend his ideals by hurting and killing others? History is full of individuals or groups committing acts of violence in the name of God. Here are a few examples of such instances. 1. The Spanish Inquisition. The Spanish Inquisition, established to ensure the religious orthodoxy of Spain and to root out heresy, was first headed by Tomás de Torquemada as the first Grand Inquisitor. During the Spanish Inquisition in the 15th and 16th centuries, people were tortured and executed in the name of purifying the Catholic Church. Those accused of heresy, witchcraft, or religious nonconformity were subjected to brutal interrogations and often faced execution by burning at the stake. 2. The Crusades. The Christian Crusades, which lasted from around 1096 AD to around 1291 AD, is a series of religiously motivated military campaigns to reclaim the Holy Land from Muslim control. The Crusaders, led by various leaders including Godfrey of Bouillon, Raymond IV of Toulouse, Bohemond I of Antioch, and Baldwin of I of Jerusalem, resulted in numerous deaths on both sides. The Crusaders often committed numerous atrocities against Jews, Muslims, and even other Christians. The Muslims did the same when they had the upper hand. 3. the Salem witch trials. In 1692, in Salem, Massachusetts, a series of witch trials led to the execution of several people accused of witchcraft, most of which were women and girls. This was driven by a belief that witches were in league with the devil and posed a threat to the religious community. 4. Religious terrorism. In more recent times, various terrorist organizations such as Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, and ISIS have used God as a pretext for carrying out acts of violence. They claim to be fighting in the name of Islam, but how can anyone really fight on behalf of God? It is important to note that these are extreme instances and that they do not represent the broader religious communities. Most religious traditions promote values of peace, compassion, and justice. The story of these so-called fighters of God, and to some extent that of the misguided but well-intentioned Uzzah, is a reminder that God is almighty, the Alpha and the Omega. He does not need human intervention in his grand design for the universe. It should remind us of Jesus' warning to Peter when he tried to defend Jesus from being arrested. Jesus said to him, "Do you think I cannot call on my Father, and he will at once put at my disposal more than 12 legions of angels?" Matthew 26, verse 53. This may sound trite, but it must be said that God is perfectly capable of fighting his own cause. Thank you for watching. Let us know what you think about this episode. God bless you.